I think that in game number 2, SK need to go back to the drawing boards if they want to get back and climb into this set. There was a lot of issues for them. I think Athena was the first of it all.
Yeah, Athena's definitely really tough to go against. SK going to opt for the first pick and the first ban this time around. I worry, though, because SK got all of their comfort picks. Maybe not all. But they got the Ra for Lawbster. They got the Xbalanque for the Hunter player over there. Funballer. I mean, it was a really great draft for them. Unfortunately, like you said, the Athena, I really think was the cornerstone that made this too tough to deal with.
Even with HalfDevil playing his Terra, he was not in a comfortable spot against the Athena Artemis combination. The taunt into the board trap, there was enough DPS from Rival to abuse HalfDevil before the defenses and the health came online.
Pretty rough. Sarkett banned out here by Rival. Guan Yu, the first ban overall, will be followed up by an Odin. Kind of tipping their hand there. SK clearly want to play some sort of healer. First pick Terra, I think, could be on the board. First pick Ra could also be on the board.
They could be baiting potentially some bans as well, maybe some healer bans, but it's going to be the Athena ban. Rival respecting this pick for not only themselves, but afraid to face it against their opposition.
That might be, sorry to cut you off there, that might be the thing, was that they might have went Odin to bait a Ra ban or something like that, hoping that Rival would ban themselves out, right? Ban your own Wlfy's Ra. Instead, the Janus, and at the same time, so I think if they ban Ra, they pick Athena first pick.
Definitely.
And I think that's what SK were going for, but Rival and Alpha Jackal a little bit too tenured to fall into the mousetrap. Or Janus going to be the middle lane choice, and then Achilles followed up by the Ratatoskr one more time.
It's the global pressure versus global pressure. You see Janus on one side. Lawbster loves this pick. So does Wlfy, so you strip that option away from it. More than likely, Wlfy will lean on the Discordia after this, but still iceicebaby, with him being the MVP in game number 1, the way he was able to get those 2 kills before level 5, could see the same sort of action in game 2.
Sobek and Xbalanque locked in so far. Part of me hopes that this Sobek winds up in the hands of Ducky, though, to be honest.
Depends what the other Deathwalker is going to play. Achilles could be flex as well, depending if Callus is going to pilot it. But Sobek, very good in terms of absorbing damage and then just healing it back up. You also got the mana sustain. You cover a lot of options.
Ullr, a choice for Rival. Not quite sure if that will wind up in the hands of Vote or Wlfy. Wlfy, one of the mid laners that really tends to stick to the traditional mages and doesn't really venture too far out of there. But we have seen the Ullr many times before in the hands of Wlfy, so could certainly be a selection. Rival continues to intelligently ban here. I love the Kumbhakarna and the Monkey ban. I think these are the correct bans. Game number 1, I was a little iffy on the Kumbha, but game number 2, I'm much more confident.
This definitely makes more sense in game 2 because game 1, Terra was already locked in. Without the global pressure ultimate from the Terra the way it used to be, you don't really run Terra in the solo lane, but Sobek can still be flexed for Ducky, so you cover another comfort pick for potentially HalfDevil.
Thoth and Ra banned out. SK, and I like this choice because this is much more intelligent than banning a specific god. You look at Wlfy and you say, I don't like his Ra. But Thoth does a lot of what Ra does outside of the heal. They're long-range artillery mages. What SK did here was they banned out a play style. They said, Wlfy, if you want to play this game from a distance, you're going to have to pick one of the lower-end characters. We're going to have to see you. If you're going to play from a distance, pick Vulcan, pick Nuwa. Instead, they force him to play a little bit more up, which makes him more susceptible. Wlfy's Poseidon comes out. Mercury and Fafnir to round out the draft for SK.
Cripple is never a bad thing when you're trying to shut down people from going through some of those Janus portals. So I still like the potential that this Poseidon has for Wlfy. Doesn't have the same range as the 2 chickens, but still going to provide the damage and the objective secure with the Krakens.
Xing, the final selection for Rival, that will limit not only what the Xbalanque brings, but also the Mercury. Don't forget, Mercury is a burst god, but he brings his burst by way of his basic attacks. Even Made You Look is considered a basic attack. So Xing Furious Roar will certainly bring that down a notch. How many notches is the question. SK Gaming have a situation where they're putting Faeles on a hyper carry. Can this guy be the guy? If he stands up, I think SK has a great chance to win here. Anatoly, what are your thoughts?
Looking at Deathwalker, if he can find those executes with the percent damage from the Furious Roar out of Callus and synergize that, Rival should be able to win those team fights. But SK has the late game options covered. If they can sneak some objectives, I'm really worried for Rival's late game potential.
It's going to be possible. Rival certainly took game number 1 in dominant fashion. It's going to take a lot for SK to topple them, but who knows? Finch and Taco, bring us the business.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Toli. It is Finch and Taco. Here's going to Rival versus SK for Game 2. And Taco, I'm looking at this Rival draft. We got the Achilles and the Xing Chen. You think it's Xing Chen for Kalas? Achilles goes over to Deathwalker, right?
I kind of secretly hate Rival's draft. I'm just going to throw it out there, man. I
Just
don't know,
a little bit.
It makes sense on like paper. Don't get me wrong. It's not like awful by any degree or stretch of the imagination. It's just that like if I were to compare these two separately and not look at like the team names at the top of it, I would hand it to SK every single day of the week.
I really do like SK's draft, yeah.
SK has such a sick draft. Like I love their draft. The question is, can they execute it? I think that's always kind of been a reoccurring theme for SK, is that they'll get really solid team compositions, but as far as pulling them off, that usually goes 50-50.
Well, who do you think will win? Do you trust in the Xing Chen? You trust in the Achilles? You trust in the Poseidon? For Rival, are you feeling a little bit more SK here in this draft? Go ahead and vote for us in Mixer Chat, and we'll go ahead and get that game started for you. We are ready for Game 2 between these squads, and it is going to be, of course, Deathwalker on the Achilles. Why could he not? How could he not want to play one of the most aggressive gods in the game in lane?
He already showed how aggressive he wanted to play against Ducky. I think that's why we see the Hercules even get picked by Deathwalker. He just wanted something that he could slapbox with. And Hercules is going to be a guy that could stand up against a Kakolin. I am also liking the Achilles for Deathwalker because he is one of our more aggressive solo laners. So Ducky being on the Sobek this time around, it might have a little bit more survivability in terms of getting ganked by iceicebaby, but it's not going to be a fun laning phase, I feel.
No, not at all. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Faeles giving him some attention early. Once Ducky, gets a few levels, has his ultimate, he doesn't care very much about blue buff. He should be safe in lane. But before that, I mean, I would not be surprised if Deathwalker is very handily running this lane and would need a little bit of help relieving the pressure.
The team fight potential alone from SK composition is just insane. Like, there's so much that they can connect and build off of in a lot of their team fights, but you've got to make it to that stage. You have to make sure that you're staying relevant in levels, gold, everything. Otherwise, it's never going to come to fruition. And a vote not even paying mind to this creep wave in the slightest, looking purely for that aggression against Funballer. Going to pay off for right now as Xbalanque is still sitting at about half health.
Wlfy moving in aggressively on the Lawbster, who knew exactly where he could find a portal back to his tier 1 tower and gets away. That does mean the left side Harpies are going to be going over to Team Rival. Meanwhile, Lawbster and Faeles are just going to take care of this middle lane. And we were talking a little bit about what we expected from these two squads. You can definitely expect aggression from Wlfy when he's on this side.
Something to note, though, is Wlfy's got the Aegis over purification beads against a Mercury Janus early game. So that strikes me a little bit odd because it means that he's not concerned about getting CC'd.
And it's something I think it should be. I mean, I was going to talk earlier about how that's kind of what Mercury brings early, right? Mercury brings the special delivery, the big ultimate, and those are two things that can be great setup for the rest of the squad, even if his damage comes where it's really swinging later on. He does fine damage, but late is when he really has it. So it is a little bit surprising that he seems more concerned about getting bursted than being controlled. Speaking
of which, Funballer trying to stack up that passive as quickly as possible, and Kalas been taking up a lot of these shots out of Funballer. He's getting real close to that first passive stack, too. It's sitting at just shy of 1,300 damage, only needs 1,500 for each stack. So that's something that Rival are going to have to keep in mind as well.
I said this lane might early go the way of Deathwalker, but Ducky very much holding his own up against the Achilles here in lane. Deathwalker apparently hasn't felt that threatened, though. Still has 2 ticks on that health chalice and hasn't really felt the need to go to those. And he did start the boots 1, so I think he only had that health chalice when he came in.
I have a feeling Ducky actually managed to pluck him into the tower, judging by how low Deathwalker is sitting. And Ducky was looking to zone out just a little bit here. Going to be tough to do, though, since Deathwalker did have another creep wave arriving.
Ice is going to come over and just help out, but this does mean they are going to be splitting this farm, and on the other hand, Ducky will not be, neither will Faeles. He's off doing his own thing by clearing that wave in the middle lane, and then can come back towards those right side Harpies. So that's another thing to keep track of, is sort of who's splitting waves and who's not, so you can see where some of these early little small experience leads come from, who take over level 5 just a little bit ahead of the other.
And I know that we've talked a decent amount about how the team fights could possibly break down and maybe even be more in favor for SK in Game 2, but Rival's individual God potential. Speaking of which, I think we're getting a nice chance now to see what could happen to Wlfy as Faeles going to end up taking him down, all while surviving in the process because Lawbster's able to just teleport right away.
That's a great ultimate usage there by Lawbster. They do find first blood for SK, and they find an escape path so that they can get away from iceicebaby, who was coming in to even up the odds. Now, they're not going to be able to defend the red buff. Hammer lands on Ice. He beats on that. I don't know that he had to. He felt like he was under a little more duress.
He might have thought that Faeles was going to catch him with a wraparound.
Sure.
A right around the side. You don't know if somebody else is coming whenever the Fafnir stem happens because they clearly already know where he's at on the map. So it's hard to judge in a single instant whether or not there'll be follow-up.
And I think almost always the right thing to do is just go ahead and beads and make sure that he does not die there. If he has, our perspective where we're seeing the whole map at once, he probably holds on to them and is able to just kind of walk away. But without having that information, he is able to strip the red buff away, uses the beads to confirm that he lives. They do end up dropping first blood, though. That's going to be because Wlfy took that spill, but Ice making sure he came in and tried to help even it out.
Surprisingly enough, though, Wlfy's the one who died first and gave up the first blood even, but he's still sitting slightly ahead in terms of experience against Lawbster.
He is. He's been doing a great job farming, and Faeles has kind of been sticking with Lawbster a little bit. That might be why when we saw Ice go spend some time in solo, but it appears Wlfy's doing all right.
It'll be much harder, too, as the game progresses for Faeles to actually attack Wlfy inside of that whirlpool. We kind of just saw Lawbster and Faeles tanking up those ticks because they're not really very threatening so early on to a match. But once you have the threat of the Kraken being available and just the gem of isolation, too, well, Mercury might not necessarily have to worry about it as much as Lawbster.
But I like this, though. Ice is delaying Faeles. Ice has already got his farm on the backside of his own jungle, and now he has the rotation coming in from Deathwalker. It's a ton of damage. Executes not quite going to be able to make it. Faeles is able to use the ultimate to dash right on through and now has a portal for escape. He is out of there, and Deathwalker could be in trouble. Ice, though, lands the knock up into the Kraken, and HalfDevil gets deleted.
Faeles might have survived, but at what cost? Ducky now trying to deal with the entirety of his rival roster as they just swarm all around him. Even Lawbster coming in for support, but one unstable Vortex did some nice poke damage against Collis. But this is not a fight that SK want to continue, and it's all but dissipated now. But Rival making sure to keep things even.
But what a fight, though, for Team Rival. I mean, that starts with Ice in the jungle, right? Delaying Faeles on his back harpies, not letting him come back towards his speed right away. Ice didn't really have much to do on his side, so he comes down, harasses Faeles, and sets up for the rotation.
And that was huge for Faeles to survive, too, because if Faeles ends up dying there, whether Deathwalker or iceicebaby gets the credit for the kill, it's still more XP than what you'd want to give up. And Vote, even managing to pull Funballer's purification beads, won't invade for right now, but that purple buff is itching to be dropped.
Yeah, Vote really wants that. He's got to be careful, though. The rotation's coming in from HalfDevil in the jungle. And if he tries to take that path, he could pay for it. No, he has the vision. So instead, it's HalfDevil who pays the Ullr tax, which is, just walking into lane against an Ullr.
Something else, too. I really am digging these deep wards by Rival, but I'm going to have to hold that thought because Ice is getting controlled and absolutely destroyed. Will manage to survive back underneath this T1 tower. Ducky even using that lurking in the water just to fully ensure they secure Deathwalker's blue buff.
Now, they do lose the buff, but at the very least, Ice manages to stay alive. SK Gaming, instead of chasing him under the tower, potentially getting punished by Deathwalker, come right to the buff, strip it away, and head back to lane. I like the safe call there from SK.
I think Ducky goofed on picking it up, though. It seemed like he tried to pick it up, and then he missed it and was like, screw it, I'll come back for it maybe later. But with Deathwalker having been there and no ultimate available, I think it's best for Ducky to just back off.
Yeah, we covered it in game one. As long as they strip it, it's not as big of a deal. As Vote's going to stand in the 1v1. He might have miscalculated here. Funballer able to bring him down to the point where I think his jump might have been on cooldown that he stuck around that fight. But either way, Funballer and HalfDevil able to punish.
HalfDevil had already forced out the jump from Vote, and so with nowhere left to go and no Athena to globally rotate, bit easier to pick off Vote.
Yeah, no Athena this time. That's Funballer happily yelling into his might. He doesn't have to worry about constantly getting that Defender of Olympus to bail out his opponent. But he was able to show up. It was a 2v1 in their favor this time, and he did have HalfDevil there with him, did Funballer, and Vote was a little bit too far forward, so he'll take a seat. But he's still experience-wise ahead, so this might not hurt him too much. There's
no real lead for either side, though, in that, sure, there might be some small individual experience gaps, but as far as the overall game is concerned, I mean, a 1,000 that's pretty much nothing in the grand scheme of things. Approaching the 10-minute mark. This has been a much slower pace, though, which I think is more favorable towards SK.
Yes.
Since their draft is more late-game dependent anyway.
And their draft is late-game dependent with that Mercury there. It's going to be very strong. So is Funballer when he gets the Xbalanque with all his items. And we all know how Janus can swing once he has just a few items, it feels like, at his disposal. And the AoE core. So I agree with you that SK are going to be strong in the late game. Not that Team Rival are going to vanish or fall off. But you'd probably rather have the Xbalanque than the Ullr, as Darkest Night does come out. Going to be leading him right towards Lawbster, who chunks him with the Unstable Vortex. Faeles now has one in his clutches. Fails, is going to be able to dash away, but he's very, very low. Ice misses the ultimate, but chases him into the purple buff and takes him out.
That was just Faeles looking for any direction to go in, and unfortunately was straight into the heart of the purple buff, so nowhere left to run. Speaking of which, Faeles just trying to make his escape, but he's going to get chunked down because of that Unstable Vortex. An even more beautiful portal to follow it up, and now it's going to be Funballer and everybody else in danger.
They do drop the shell, though. It's going to help them stay alive. Lawbster comes in with a point-blank Unstable Vortex. Faeles ends up falling, and he's not done. Pushing in aggressively, using the portal to limit Ice's movement into the hammer, and Funballer's there to find another kill. SK Gaming have come to life here in Game 2.
Calculated.
Yeah.
The whole time. Now, it wasn't Lawbster missing, it was him creating a cutoff area, and, well, Ice couldn't escape.
The portal would have been better, but you're right, yes. Zoning him off still kind of does the exact same job.
Lawbster can do no wrong.
That's true.
That's what I'm trying to say here, Finch.
He's 2-0-2 at this point, so he certainly has done no wrong here in this game. And you can see that fight recap: 3 kills to 1. They come out about 400 gold ahead, and that's with them both doing about the same amount of damage. It's just on the relevant targets.
The damage being so close is where the real oof comes in if you're rival, because I feel like they got robbed there, but mostly robbed because SK just positioned a little bit better.
They did. They played that fight very, very well, did SK, and now they're up 5-2 over Team Rival. As we're only approaching the 11-minute mark, you can still see things are very even, despite the fact that SK are able to win that fight kill-wise so heavily. And really, we talked about it earlier, how Faeles kind of like used the ultimate just trying to get away from Ice's ultimate. We don't have a whole lot of dead ends on the map, and he kind of ran into the only one, which was that purple buff. And he just had to pick as soon as possible a direction to get away, and just unfortunate that's where he went.
It's either the purple buff or you're smacking into a corner. He's lucky he didn't clip the wall.
Really, yeah.
Where he started that off at, so a bit misfortunate, but also ended up kind of working in SK's favor because sure, Faeles traps himself inside of the purple buff, but that just means Ice is diving straight into a purple buff too.
That's right. Ice kind of traps himself to make sure he chases out Faeles, and that kind of works in favor of SK Gaming. I want to point out, Faeles was able to back just now and go get that Gauntlet of Thebes finished, so he might be able to get a stacking advantage depending on just how close HalfDevil is and when he's able to find a time that he feels comfortable backing. Right now, though, Faeles not really getting minions. He's kind of just walking through the jungle pass, so it might not be too big an advantage just yet.
HalfDevil's had some really nice hammer stuns to help coordinate some more of these Unstable Vortexes for Funballer. Speaking of which, the pressure's not over just yet. Vo getting get targeted yet again, and Faeles getting his second kill of the game through space and time means that the rest of the boys are probably coming too from SK, and that's going to prompt Faeles to not try and keep the aggression going.
Yeah, the beads were just too good from Faeles. Those are going to be on cooldown now. That hand forced by Vote, who had the quick turnaround axe. It just was not enough to keep him alive. 0-3-0 now on this Ullr. It hasn't exactly worked out. SK have done a tremendous job rotating over, whether it's HalfDevil and Funballer in the 2v1, whether it's Faeles coming over a Lawbster with a through space and time and punishing this Ullr.
Ullr in duo feels like a statement pick from Vote in that he really didn't believe SK would be able to pressure him away from the lane, and probably thought that he would be able to strong-arm Funballer with some of this ability damage, but Funballer's getting real close to finishing off his stacks of the Devourer's Gauntlet. He built into the Ninja Tabi. He's got 5,100 player damage, so might be even close to finishing off his full passive.
That's scary. Xbalanque top damage already. That is not good news if you are Team Rival, as a portal does catch out Faeles. But already he's going to be swinging just that much harder. Looks like he's even working to that Executioner, so it won't be long before he's truly putting the hurt onto Vote.
It's just so much damage, and Ullr also not having a CC immune ultimate.
Yeah.
Starting to play a heavy part of Vote's demise here in the first 13 minutes because he can't truly escape. Whenever he beats the toss-up from Faeles, or if he beats the Darkest Night stun, it doesn't really matter because there's just so many different ways for SK to essentially corral this Ullr into a corner.
Checking back in with our supports. Gauntlet of Thieves is finished for HalfDevil, so only about a, 15, 17 minion advantage for Kala. So it is an advantage, but not nearly as tremendous as it could have been. HalfDevil did a good job keeping up with that timing, so he should be pretty relevant in terms of Kalas. Mid laners, though, this is the build that Wlfy likes to do when he's playing on that Poseidon with the Shaman's Ring, very likely into the Gem of Isolation for that third item. He likes to make sure he's got some of that extra damage that really does synergize well with just Poseidon's kit in general with the Shaman's Ring.
I can appreciate the utility build out of Wlfy. It's just this is the one-shot comp by SK. Faeles, if he lands his ultimate onto Wlfy, it's going to be very difficult for this Poseidon to survive throughout the rest of the follow-up damage that a Mercury has to offer. And this isn't even including a possible through space and time being dropped on top of his noggin as well.
That would certainly put an end to it if they're able to catch out with Wlfy, who's not on the most mobile main, just some extra movement speed, but it kind of feels like once Faeles is on him, once Ducky's on him, it's going to be pretty hard for him to create some space. But it's Team Rival who are going towards the Gold Fury first. Lawbster is in the jungle. HalfDevil's here through space and time, comes through, but Rival grabbed the Gold Fury. Ice falls to HalfDevil very early on, but Rival are just on the escape. They've got what they wanted. But good ultimate comes out from Faeles. They catch him. Deathwalker couldn't make it out. He gets deleted by Faeles.
Beautiful gameplay from Faeles there, catching the perfect Mercury ultimate, cutting right through that jungle pathway, making sure that Deathwalker can't survive. And he was melted, by the way. He didn't even have a chance to properly respond.
And that's what they needed. If it's just the first kill they get on the Ice, then I think that's in Rival's favor. But getting that kill on the Deathwalker, they come to Pyro. Taco, they're going to Fire Giant. 15.5 minutes in, HalfDevil going into the Draconic Corruption for the AoE Curse. Kalas is being pulled away by Ducky, who's on zoning duty. Wlfy doesn't even have the Kraken available. Team Rival 1 trying to come in and steal the Whirlpools. Not close enough. Kalas is in here, but he's deleted. SK take the Fire Giant 15.5 minutes into the game.
It's not over just yet, though. Ice still looking to give chase, and there's quite a few members that are pretty low here on SK, but that through the Cosmos won't be able to reach ideal candidates such as Funballer or Lawbster even, and it's just Rival being trounced.
And Taco, that to me is Faeles hitting Deathwalker with the ultimate. If they don't get that setup and then the subsequent kill onto him, they do not have the space to go do Fire Giant there and Pyromancer. So everything that SK gets off this Fire Giant, I think comes back to that play.
The last set that SK played most recently too, this is what kept them in the running, were these off-the-wall, like, huge objective play calls for the Fire Giant, for the Gold Furies. It's so hard to predict when they're actually going to try and commit to any of these global objectives that Rival, I don't think, would have expected even in their wildest dreams that immediately after taking the Pyromancer, Rival or SK would just go for the big Fire Giant too.
No, not at 15:40 in the game, right? 15:30 when they started up. There's just no way to know that that's coming. And Ducky does a great job as well on zoning duty. He's the one that keeps Kalas away for the most part, that forces Wlfy to have to drop the Whirlpool from too far away. I don't think it was ticking on the Fire Giant at all from where he had to place it. And that zone that they put on was perfect. And now SK Gaming are going to be able to take the Tier 1 tower in mid, and they've got a chance to really start opening up this lead if they can get some towers.
All I'm going to say, Finch, is we both liked SK's draft.
It's a good draft.
And we both looked at Rivals, and we're like, yikes.
And it's not the best, but it's hard to pick against Rival with the way they've been playing. I don't know if anyone's been more consistent than them over this last year, but SK Gaming have drafted a great comp, and they're playing it well.
It just feels like a little bit too much flavor from Rival and not enough coordination. I mean, it's even if they have all 5 grouped, there's no real synergy in this comp, and it feels a little bit weird. Speaking of which, Kala's not even going to get a chance to think. Kraken already being used as well, but it's only Ducky who's falling kind of low.
And now a big ultimate comes out from Faeles, hitting 3 members. HalfDevil takes down Deathwalker. Wlfy is already out of the fight as well, and now Faeles has found Vote iceicebaby in a whole heap of trouble. Deicide and a double kill for Faeles. Team Rival may have underestimated SK Gaming as they put on the gas.
SK should have no problems taking down the left-hand Phoenix, even with Kalas being so close to respawning. I don't think that he'll have a chance against a 5 man strong SK with the Fire Giant. They're going to shred through this too because of the Mercury and Xbalanque.
Well, Collis is on his way, but I don't know what this one lone Xing Chen can do. In fact, Ducky finds the pluck into the special delivery, and Collis is deleted. That's technically another D aside as Collis goes back to base.
This feels like a lack of respect from Rival.
Yes.
Collis running up that close to the entirety of SK, practically challenging them to do something. It's a lack of respect, it feels. They need to tone it back and remember, SK are in the SPL for a reason.
SK are not just in the SPL, they ain't been in the SPL for a while. I mean, this roster, we talked about how old Lawbster, or Long Lawster's been playing the game. Funballer and him go back a long time. So do Ducky and Faeles. You absolutely cannot give this SK team an inch. It's why we keep mentioning how experienced they are, how they're strong individual players, and that they just need a little bit of a click. Well, with a draft like this and with Rival playing like this, SK are ready to click, and iceicebaby's feeling it.
If you get caught right now from SK, you should just assume that you're going to die. It's so much burst damage out of Faeles, and this is what we've been wanting to see from Faeles for so long. It's the sets where he manages to have that hard carry possibility, and it's not even on the Humbats this time, which I think has been one of his more successful God picks.
What is this from Rival? They're going to all in on a Gold Fury at 19 minutes? They could lose the game. They could lose. SK Gaming are going to come attack the Fiends on the right-hand side, and Rival still have not backed. I wonder if SK Gaming even realized that Rival's not here. Instead, they're going to back off. They're just going to give up that Phoenix.
They've got to have heard that. They know that it's happening. I like what Lawbster's done, though, because he's managed to keep the creep wave pushed.
But Taco, they got to defend that.
They weren't interested in defending that.
But it's their base.
They don't have to do anything, Finch. You
Okay.
gotta remember that. They don't have to defend their Phoenixes.
Sure.
And in that moment, they decided the Gold Fury worth a little bit more than the
their Phoenix?
They needed the gold. They need the gold for the itemization to try and catch back up, because right now for Rival, it isn't necessarily even about winning the team fight. It's first and foremost, you have to catch your carries up in levels and items, because they are completely irrelevant right now.
At this point, they really are not able to touch SK. I mean, you talked about how far ahead Faeles is. That Rage is evolved at this point. Poison Star already there, and looks like he's working on the Deathbringer. He will be swinging without any doubt, and Team Rival have made the call to just grab what gold they can. They didn't feel good about their chances on Phoenix on the right-hand side, but will they defend this Fire Giant? This is the second one, and we're 21 minutes into the game. SK Gaming have a 11,000 gold lead, and they're going to use that here to try and secure this Fire Giant. Or maybe not.
I think Rival will want to maybe 5-man contest this, and if you're going to look for an all-in fight, you got to pick your battles, and I'm sure that Rival are experienced enough to know when they can and can't get away with something. I'm not sure that making an all-in stand on the Fire Giant is going to be in their best interest. I think that the Deathwalker is just lurking around to see if they're actually going to try and commit to it.
Deathwalker gets controlled and deleted. Ducky is the one that finds that kill. 5v4 now in favor of SK Gaming. Add on to that, they have to worry about minions pouring into the Titan room, and things start to look real bad for the boys in purple. Fire Giant comes crumbling down. Ice is up onto the tree, but where could he possibly land?
They're going for it. They were going for it. They didn't think the Fire Giant would get bursted that quickly, because Rival were still hugging around the corner as if they were ready to strike.
This is
odd.
This is Rival like trying a trick play and getting like punched in the mouth, and now they're like reeling. This is SK running away with this game because Rival didn't show them the due respect. Phoenix at half health. HalfDevil jumps out before the Whirlpool comes in. Lawbster steps forward, but Faeles is the one you got to be worried about on this Mercury. Almost 23 minutes into the match.
I'd say it's Ducky. Every single one of these plugs have been so on point. Deathwalker now coming back in. Seems to have forgotten what happened the last time that he chose to go so forward. And Faeles not even interested in Ducky, or excuse me, in Deathwalker. He went straight for Vote. Deathwalker gonna end up dying anyway as Faeles gets his second kill of the game. It's gonna be a full-on Dia side as SK end up toppling Rival.
Triple kill is going to end it out here for Faeles, and SK Gaming, they answer back in a big way here in Game 2. We're going to have ourselves a Game 3 Team Rival perhaps underestimating SK a little bit too much. They give him a great composition, then they don't play into it properly, and SK Gaming almost clinically punish them at every turn.
I don't think we see another rival composition like that ever again. At least not against SK in this set. If they want to be able to finish off this set, they need to bring it back to the basics, because that was just way too much.
And I talked about this already. Rival need this set win. They're down 1-2 right now, I believe, right? They think they beat Mouse is the only team they've been able to beat so far, so they need this set victory here against SK, who they're supposed to be able to beat, right? And SK are bringing it in a big way here in this set so far. And who is your MVP? I would not fault you if you felt like voting for Faeles.
Faeles looked fantastic, and for what it's worth, it's awesome seeing him succeed on the Mercury pick of all things, because I think that he is proven that inconsistency is by far his biggest downfall, and this is Faeles being a little bit more consistent.
Well, we saw it from here in Game 2. They're going to need a lot of that in Game 3 if they want to win, because if Rival are good at one thing, it's adjusting. You know they're going to be talking with Alpha Jacko right now. You know they're looking at their picks and bans, like what went wrong, and they're going to make some adjustments here in this next game.
I think they're actually going to do the picks and bans this time, because it didn't feel like they did it last time.
Yeah, they're going to pick stuff, not just going to click on random stuff, maybe.
I don't know.
I'm sure that Rival had a plan there at that draft. They just weren't able to get it off the ground, and instead SK kind of ran over them. But Taco, we could talk about it for the rest of the day. We'll let the desk go ahead and break this one down for us.
Jay-Z said it in the early 90s. 22 twos. Hot stuff coming out from SK. Finally doing it. And this is kind of what I was talking about the last time we were on the desk, and the last time we saw SK play, and the time before that. When Faeles is able to show up and be the jungler that this team needs, they see success.
The Mercury play was very hot and very flashy, too fast for some to handle. That dual lane deicide opened the door for the rest of SK to close this game.
All comes down to Faeles being the MVP, most valuable player, and his performance just stood on its own 2 feet. And again, I mean, when he's able to be successful in the jungle, when he's able to make the plays happen across the map, then Funball and Lawbster just fall into place.
It started off when he ganked out Wlfy around that level 4 marker, and Wlfy, going for early Aegis, doesn't even use it. During that little encounter, he also goes south instead of going north, where iceicebaby was going to be potentially able to help him out. So a little disconnect between Wlfy and iceicebaby, and this, I believe, was the play where Faeles just kind of goes in. I think he clips 2, maybe 3 people later down the road, avoids the Kraken at the same time, mixing it up with the offensive and defensive measures.
That ultimate was just not perfect, and then follows it up with the wrap up there and a couple of more kills. And before the final siege, 7-1 and 6 was this guy's slash line. Just incredible stuff coming out from Faeles. And 2 things here. That's the capability of Faeles. That's what happens when he's able to step up and perform and be the player that his team needs him to be. And then on the other side, that's what SK is capable of when they have their jungler working on all cylinders.
And a lot what enabled Faeles to pop off was also the safety that the Janus portals from Lawbster provided Faeles. There was a gank opportunity around that 5.5 to 6 minute mark where Lawbster saves his whole team in a 4-on-4 encounter around that solo lane blue buff. And if Rival kill Faeles, that maybe shuts down his momentum, but because he was able to make the offensive plays early, survive in the mid game, Faeles pops off, and impressive stuff out of this Mercury player.
As per usual. Actually, not as per usual. Let me take that back. That was an empty statement. Not as per usual. A deviation from the norm. And SK and their fans should be very happy about that. This should become the norm for SK. And hopefully, for them and their fans at home, it continues into game number 3. That's